Welcome back to another video, and today what I have for everyone is my full camera review or my full camera walkthrough on the cameras on the Moto Edge 2020. So today in this camera review or camera walkthrough, I'm going to take you guys and gals through everything that you guys and gals need to know about the cameras on the Moto Edge 2020. Alright, then I'm going to attach all of my photo samples and all of my video samples so you guys and gals can have a look and judge for yourselves. That being said, these camera reviews / camera walkthroughs are always pretty lengthy, so this video will be timestamped for your convenience, so please feel free to check the video description down below to jump around to different parts of the video that you would like to know more about. With that being said, without further ado, let's jump into today's camera review or camera walkthrough. Now, before we get into the photo and the video samples, I just want to take everyone through all of the important aspects of the cameras on the Moto Edge 2020. And none is more important than the ways in which you can launch the cameras. And with the Moto Edge 2020, there are two distinctive ways that you can launch the cameras on this device. Okay? Both of which I'm going to demonstrate in this video, but first, let me show you how to access that functionality. Now, the first way is via the Moto Actions, and you can get into the Moto Actions by finding the Moto application on your device. Okay, so we just have to simply look for it. Should be in here somewhere, right here, and then you just want to go to Moto Actions down here, and then one of them will be Quick Capture, right? And with Quick Capture turned on, you just have to quickly twist your wrist while holding the device and it will launch you into the cameras. Okay? Another way you can launch the cameras on your Moto device is by quickly double pressing the power button. Okay? Now, if you don't like the Moto interface, right, and you still want access to this, there is a cleaner way to get to all of the camera functionality access points in the settings. Let me show you how to get to that. So you come out of the Moto app, you go into the settings, and then you want to scroll down till you get to System, and then you just want to go into Gestures, and then all of your gestures are here. So your Quick Capture, Quick Twist to launch the cameras, right here. A lot quicker and cleaner than getting into the Moto app, okay, as well as double pressing the power button. So you can see when you double press the power button, you can launch the Google Assistant, you can do nothing, or you can launch the cameras. And I have mine set up to launch the cameras, okay? So those are the two ways of which you can access the capabilities to launch the cameras. And then real quickly now, I'm just going to put up some B-roll demonstrating that. So you can see up first, we got the quick twist of the wrist, okay? And this is accessible from any state on your device. As long as your device is powered on, both of these functions will work, right? So you can see double press of the power button, gonna work, no problems. It can be from the lock screen, it could be from your home screens, anywhere as long as your device is turned on, and the same rules apply for the quick twist of the wrist. It could be from the lock screen, it could be from your home screen. It's pretty much anywhere as long as your device is turned on and this feature is enabled, you can launch the cameras with these two features. Alright, so those are the two ways in which you can launch the cameras on your Moto device. Now, another way you can launch the cameras on your Moto device is simply by tapping on the camera icon anywhere you have it located on the home screens on your device or inside of the app drawer, and once you do that, it will drop you into the main camera interface for your Motorola device. Now we're going to go through the main camera interface from top to bottom, left to right. Okay? Starting up first here, we're dropped into the main photo interface. Okay? So you can see up top on the far left, we have HDR controls. So it's high dynamic range, or it just makes your photos look better. So by default, it comes set to auto, but you could turn it on if you like it, or you could turn it off if you don't like it. And simply all you have to do is tap the option and then tap the option you want. And then once you select an option, it goes off, and then you see a nice indicator above that option above. But me, myself, I like leaving the HDR set to auto. So that's typically where I keep it. Right next to that, we got flash controls. Same rules apply. So you can set it to auto, you can set it to on, or you can set it to off. By default, it comes set to auto, but I don't like using the flash on my device, so I almost always turn it off. Then right next to that, we have a timer. Now the timer is only accessible when taking photos. You do not have timer accessible when taking video, but you got a 3-second timer or a 10-second timer or a none. And then right next to that, we have what Moto likes to call their action photo or live photo. So it captures a little bit of video before the photo is taken and a little bit of video after the photo is taken, and it makes a nice little action photo of it like the name implies. I typically don't like this, so I typically turn it off, okay? But it's there. You play around with it. If it's something you feel you like, you turn it on. And you're going to see how I set up my devices when I'm testing as we go throughout this camera walkthrough as well. Next to that, we have our auto controls and our manual controls. As the name implies, the auto controls pretty much lets the device do the majority of the work, okay? Whereas with the manual controls, now you have full access to dialing in everything in terms of photos for your device. Now, sadly, we don't have these same types of manual controls for video, but we only have these same types of manual controls for photos, and in particular when we're using the rear-facing cameras. We don't have the same manual controls when we're using the front-facing cameras, okay? So that's right there. You can toggle between manual mode for the photos and auto mode for the photos in that setting right there. I typically leave mine set to auto. And then right next to that, we got a gear icon that will take you into the subsettings for your device. And we might as well go through the subsettings right now. So starting off up top, it gives you the subsettings for your rear-facing camera. Now, by default, it comes set to 48 megapixel mode, okay, which downsamples the camera from 64 megapixels to 48 megapixels, and it combines the pixels to give you a 12 megapixel shot. That's what the quad pixel is. It's combining the pixels to give you a more compact and pixel dense shot. Now, I like to shoot with my cameras at their maximum resolutions, so I pretty much went up to the maximum resolution. As you see here, I had it set to 16 megapixels, which is the 64 megapixel camera quad bend, okay? And that's how I took all of my photos. And then up on top, above that, you got your aspect ratios. So you can shoot in 4:3, or you can shoot in 16:9, or you can shoot in the aspect ratio for the device, which is 19.5:9. Now, I like to shoot in either 16:9 or 4:3. To get the maximum resolution, I always set to 4:3. So when I took the photos, regardless of whether or not I was using the front-facing camera or the rear-facing camera, I was using 4:3 mode so I can get the maximum resolution. And the maximum resolution for the rear-facing camera is a 64 megapixel primary sensor that outputs in 16 megapixels via the quad pixel bending technology. And that's how I shot. Now, alongside that primary 64 megapixel sensor, we do have a 16 megapixel ultra wide sensor, which outputs in true 16 megapixel photo mode. And then we got a, I believe it's a 5 megapixel telephoto lens. And then we got a 3D time of flight sensor. Okay? The telephoto lens is basically for zoom, for photos, not for video. Okay? Then coming out of that subsetting, you can see we got our video resolutions for the camera. So we can record in all the way up to 4K at 30 FPS, We could do 4K at 30 FPS in 19.5 by 9. We could do 1080p 60. We could do 1080p 30. We could do 1080p 30 at 19 by 9 aspect ratio, 19.5 by 9 aspect ratio, or we can do 720p at 30 FPS. Now, I've decided to record this video in 1080p 30, 1080p 60, and 4K at 30 FPS. Now, due to the file restrictions for my video editing software, it doesn't handle 4K files nicely. So I'm going to take the 4K files and downsample them to 2K to make it more digestible for my video editor. But I will shoot these video segments in the resolution that I state for the video clip. But I'm going to go all the way up to 4K at 30 FPS. And in particular, it's going to be 1080p 30, 1080p 60, and 4K at 30 FPS. Okay? And those are the resolutions for the rear-facing cameras. Now, moving on down, we get to the selfie camera. Now, in particular, with the selfie camera, we have a 25 megapixel front-facing selfie camera that can record in 4:3, 16:9, or 19.5:9 ratios, okay? Now, if we go down in terms of resolution, you can see we could take photos in 25 megapixel true 25 megapixel mode, or we could take photos in quad bend 25 megapixel mode. And when you take photos in quad bend mode, it spits out a 6 megapixel image. Now, as with the rear-facing cameras, I want to shoot everything at the maximum resolution, so I set the front-facing camera to 25 megapixels, and that's where I left it, and I also set it to a 4:3 aspect ratio. So every selfie shot you see was taken with the front-facing camera in either portrait mode or regular auto mode, okay? Just so everyone knows. And that is the front-facing camera settings, which is a 25 megapixel front-facing selfie camera. Okay, getting out of that, now moving on down in terms of video, you can only record with the front-facing 25 megapixel camera at up to 1080p 30 FPS. You can also do 1080p at 19.5 by 9 at 30 FPS or 720p at 30 FPS. Now, much like with the rear-facing cameras, I want to shoot at the maximum quality resolution. So all the front-facing videos you saw in the videos coming up, in the clips coming up, is going to be recorded at 1080p 30 FPS. Okay? Now, after a certain amount of time, I just switched to using the rear-facing cameras because there's only so much you can do with the front-facing cameras after you've tested everything out at 1080p 30 FPS. So after a certain segment in the video, I just started using the primary cameras by themselves. Okay? But I just wanted to point that out. Now, talking about some other settings here, in terms of the rear-facing cameras, we can do slow motion in 1080p 120 frames per second or 720p 240 frames per second. So you do have some nice quality super slow motion here with the Moto Edge 2020. And in regards to the front-facing cameras, we can do the same thing. So you can do full HD 120 frames per second slow motion, or you can do 720p 240 frames per second slow motion. Okay? And as with the rear-facing camera, we got access to HDR on the front-facing camera. And then if we scroll down, we got some other capabilities. So we can access the quick capture capability. You can tap anywhere on the screen to take a photo when you're in the viewfinder. We got the shutter sound. We got the grid line assist. We got the leveler assist. We got the watermark that I did add at a certain point in the video. I just didn't remember to do it when I first started taking photos, but we do have 2 different watermarks that we can use. So you can add a date and a time, and then you got your 2 different styles of watermark that you can use here. Okay? And I pretty much stuck with this one. I like this one, and I just added my name in the byline. Okay? Then moving on down from that, we got a auto smile capture function. So when the camera see you smiling, it will take a photo. I'm not really a big fan of that, but I am a big fan of this, especially as somebody that records and shoots their photos and videos by themselves. We got a gesture selfie function. So to use this gesture selfie function, you just have to hold your palm up in front of the camera. It will detect your palm, and then it will give you a brief countdown and then snap the photo. I use this feature all the time while I was testing these cameras. That really is clutch when you're shooting photos and video by yourself. Now, this feature only works when you're taking photos. It doesn't work when you're taking videos. And then we have a smart composure functionality, which just uses AI implementations to help get the best photos and help assist you with getting the best photos. And then we got the enhanced shot or enhanced shot optimization, which uses AI and scans your scene and then tries to optimize the photo based on what the AI is seeing from the cameras. Now, I did leave that turned on so y'all can see how it performs. And then we have Google Lens, which lets you just take any photo and run it through the Google search and pull out the text or do a web search, what have you, translations, what have you. Okay, I did leave that on. I do use that a lot. And then we got the storage location. Like I said in the unboxing, this device does take a micro SD card, but I did not install one, so you can see that option is grayed out. But when you do install a micro SD card, you gain the capability of storing your photos and videos directly to the micro SD card. And then we have the location metadata. I guess I took too long in the camera without doing anything because it closed out. But if we scroll back down, then we have the location metadata in the location toggle. And this just adds location information to all your photos and videos so it can easily catalog it later. Now, I always recommend you turn this function off on any of your smart devices, because with just a little bit of technical know-how or a 2 to 5 minute Google search, anyone can figure out how to pull that location metadata out of your photo, any photo that you post online. So I always recommend, for privacy purposes, that you turn off your location metadata in all of your smart devices. Okay? It's a privacy thing. And then we got the efficiency video, the 8.265 or 8.264 efficiency video codec. And I pretty much just left that turned on for wider compatibility across where I'm uploading these videos. Okay? Okay. So that basically goes through the subsettings. Then we got a quick tutorial for the camera. But you don't really need to go through that. I'm taking you through everything that you need to know right here. So that pretty much goes over all your subsettings. And now moving on down, below that, we got our main viewfinder. Okay? And then right to the left of that, we got a quick shortcut to our primary camera, which is 1x zoom. We got a quick shortcut to our telephoto camera, which punches in at 2x zoom. And then we got a quick shortcut to our ultra-wide camera that punches out at 1.5x zoom. Okay? These are your quick shortcuts. Right? So 1x is the primary 64 megapixel camera, which is outputting 16 megapixel shots. 2x is your 5 megapixel telephoto camera, which I do believe is outputting, I think it's 10 megapixel shots. Now, I didn't take too many telephoto photos, so we didn't use that one. But I did use the primary and the ultra-wide cameras wherever applicable. That's pretty much what I like to use. And then I use the front-facing 25 megapixel camera wherever applicable. Okay? But that's a quick shortcut to jump between the cameras. So again, 1x is your 64 megapixel camera. 0.5x is your 16 megapixel ultra-wide. And then 2x is your 5 megapixel telephoto, I believe it is. Okay? Now, you can also do pinch to transition between all of these lenses. So you can pinch in, it zooms in. You can pinch out, it zooms out. And you can stop anywhere between the two, depending on how slow or how fast you pinch. Okay? And you can zoom all the way in up to 10 times. But I would not recommend you zoom in up to 10 times. It does not look good. Okay? And then we have our big composition window. And then below that, we have some more quick shortcuts. So you can see the gridded box. This will take you into more modes for your camera. So we got portrait mode, we got cutout mode, we got macro mode. Now with macro mode, they're actually using the ultra wide camera to give you close-up shots. Okay? That's what they're using with macro mode, right? So to give you an example of how good this looks, if I turn on my studio light real quickly and we line it up on my phone case here, okay, with it set to macro mode, now I can get a nice macro shot of the case, right? So if you want a real nice close-up, you can do that, and it's using the ultra-wide camera, okay? But you do want to make sure, as with the rest of the cameras on this device, that you have good to really good lighting to get the absolute best shot. But I really do like how they use the ultra-wide camera to give you your macro shots. Then we have spot color, which is self-explanatory. So you can pull out any one specific color out of the shot. Okay. Then we have night mode. Now, I do want to let y'all know, for all the low light shots that I took in this camera review, I did use night mode. Okay. Anything other than low light, I was using the auto mode. Okay. But for low light, I was using night mode specifically, just so y'all could see how the night mode performs. Okay. Just wanted to disclose that for everyone. Okay. Now, moving on, we do have a bevy of more modes here. So we got cinematograph mode, which is self-explanatory. We got panorama, self-explanatory. We do have an ultra megapixel mode. So this gives you the ability to take photos in true 64 megapixel mode. Okay? But when you do that, you can't zoom out to the ultra wide camera, and you can't zoom in to the telephoto camera. So although you can get the best overall highest megapixel count photo, you lose the capability to quickly switch to your other cameras when you shoot in this mode. This is why I did not shoot any photos in this mode. But it is really nice to see that they have a mode that lets you do that. Okay? Then we have a live filter mode, which again lets you add live filters to your shots. That's self-explanatory. We don't have to really touch on that too much. And then moving on down, we have the macro mode, which I already covered. We have a slow motion video mode, which you can also get into from the settings, but you can control that resolution, so 120 frames or 240 frames from the sub settings. But you do have true dedicated slow mode for your front and rear facing cameras. Okay? And then, other than that, we got a time lapse, and then we got our AR stickers. And that's pretty much all of the modes that you have on your Moto Edge 2020. And then if you have any questions, you can hit the question mark, and it will run you through all the modes that I just took you through in nice details with picture demonstrations. So if you ever have any questions about what a particular mode does, that question mark in the upper left-hand corner will help you out, right? So that's really, really cool. And I like how Motorola laid this out. Good stuff there. Good stuff there indeed. Swiping out of that. This goes over all of your additional modes. So let's go back to our regular photo mode here. Then below that, we have our shutter button, which turns into a video button if we switch over into video mode. Okay. And you can see it kind of threw an error at me. I don't know why it threw an error at me. And we're having an error for the videos now. I don't know what's going on there. Of course, while I'm trying to record a camera review for y'all, I start having errors with the video. I don't know what the issue is there. And now it's just going to keep throwing me out of the cameras. So let's do this. Let's do a hard force close. And let's try to go back in. See if it is still going to kick us out. That's kind of weird. That's very weird. And we can't seem to get back in it. Alright, see the stuff that happens while you record video. Please restart. I did restart the camera, yo. What you want me to do? There we go. Are we back now? Nope, the video's still giving me problems, yo. Okay, well, at least it didn't give me problems when I was recording the video samples. So I'm not sure what the issue is there. But yeah, pretty much that goes through all the settings on the main camera interface. Now, when you record, right, at 1080p or lower, so let me bump it down to show you. So when you record at 1080p or lower, then you have access to switch between all of your cameras when you're recording video. When you do 1080p 60 or higher, then you're stuck using the primary 64 megapixel sensor to do your videos. Okay? So that's another thing that I wanted to point out. Let me see if the camera started behaving yet. Yep, so it started behaving now. I don't know what the issue was there, but yeah, I don't know. These things happen sometimes. Y'all know these are live videos. There's no scripts. It decided to throw an error message at me after almost 2 weeks of usage with no issues. The one time I'm like, okay, let me record this B-roll for the camera review, it starts throwing error messages. Oh well. Oh well. Now in video, you do have access to using your flashlight as a dedicated torch. Okay. I don't like to use that, so I turned it off. We do have a super steady mode as well and regular stabilization. I just use regular stabilization. You can access your microphone, so you can use microphone on or microphone off. So if you just want a video with no audio, perfect for B-roll, turn that microphone off. Now, sadly, they do not give you the capability to use external audio by plugging in a different microphone. And I just want to show y'all this. I just want to verify because it wasn't working when I tried to test it. But let me just show y'all real quickly. Let me pull out my professional grade microphones right here. I use these when I have to test any type of audio. And let me just pull out one of my microphones here. Let me use my 360 mic. I love this mic. And let me just verify for y'all. At least it wasn't working when I tried it, but I'm going to try and do it in real time. So I'm going to plug in my mic and see if any types of audio comes up. Now, Google Assistant popped up. And the Moto audio popped up, but inside the camera, so it decides to work this time. Wow, this device. So you can use external audio with your Moto Edge 2020. All the other times that I plugged it in, it would not come up. Okay? I've tested this mic here. I tested this one. It wouldn't come up. And I tested my professional lapel mic. Alright, so let me test this again. Let's see if this one's going to work this time. Okay, yes it is. Okay. Alright, so I was kind of disappointed, but now I feel better. Because with all my testing of external audio, this feature would not work. It kept throwing an error message, just like the camera was throwing an error message earlier. But it's good to see it works. Really good stuff. So the stock Motorola camera app does support external microphone support. So really good stuff there. Really good stuff there indeed. Okay? So, guys and gals, I think that pretty much goes over the full camera interface for the Moto Edge 2020. We went over pretty much everything that you need to know. Now, the rest of this is self-explanatory. You got a quick shortcut to your front-facing camera on the bottom left. How y'all doing? And pretty much everything that you can do with your rear-facing camera, you can do with the front-facing camera aside from Pro mode. Okay? So same mic controls, same photo controls, same portrait mode, same different effects. Okay? But we don't have the dedicated Pro mode for photos with the front-facing camera that we had with the rear. And again, if you wanted to use your Moto gesture to quickly switch between the front and rear cameras, you can do that. So a quick flick of the wrist, and you can switch between the front and rear facing cameras. So that gesture works to open the cameras and switch between the front and rear facing cameras. Okay? And with the front facing cameras, we do have access to the beauty modes. We had access to that with the rear facing cameras as well. I turn all those beauty mode effects off. I want y'all to see the raw, unedited photo, right? So skin problems and all, y'all gonna see it all. Just so y'all know how the cameras perform, right? But yeah, that pretty much goes over the whole photo interface for the Moto Edge 2020. Alright, now what I'm going to do for everyone is I'm going to attach all of my photo samples and I'm going to attach all my video samples. Then I'll come back at the end of the video and let you guys and gals know about how I feel about the camera overall. And if not, I can recommend the device strictly based off of the camera's performance. So I hope you guys and gals enjoyed this part of the video, and I hope you guys and gals enjoy the rest of the video, and I will see you guys on the other side. Peace for now. Wow, so me testing it off camera, it kept throwing error messages. Me trying to explain it on camera, it decides it wants to work. Motorola, Motorola, Motorola. Well, at least it works. Alright, let's move on.
I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. Sometimes I feel like all is lost, but I know it's not true. I wanna put up all my walls cause I'm not in the mood, but then I cut myself off from the rest of the room. I know that time can heal it all if you're patient, and soon it can all be worth it, all the searching. Pain is never really permanent, but damn it hurts, man. I could feel all of the turbulence and it's concerning. I've been searching for a purpose, I hope it's worth it. This society is really trying me. Ain't no hide and seek, I hide to be far from anxiety. I need my space, I need my privacy. I need some silence, please, you're all too loud. You don't speak quietly, opinions violently thrown across every surface. It makes me nervous, is the world honestly burning? That's all I'm learning. Hope that we can make a turn and start reversing all our minds and put the work in. We got some work, man. I started to through. I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through. this life is a nuisance, tie up some loose ends. I try to be human, find a solution, my evolution. A place like this, it didn't exist, we made it like this. So you can go pick the bad or the good, got a glass half wish. I know, it's easier to hide than just to lay low. Not everyone in life has got a halo. I'm standing in the red inside a payphone, just wanna break, no. I'm not gonna give in, take a last shot, Michael J. Win. No, I'm not a robot, I'm in my own skin. Never get lost when thoughts pull you in. I miss the old you, we died with a purpose. All the energy around me felt nervous, scared I would pop out fast to the surface. Had to cut it off before you made me worthless. Torn apart, I've been torn and scarred. I had a given art, but now I'm thinking smart. I'm keeping up my guard, I'm hiding every card. A royal flush of bluff, you never know what's hard. With a back to the mat, gonna see where I'm at. I'ma fight like I'm mad, I'm a beast of the net. They can never be me, nice try, but they'll see I achieve everything while they stay salty. I started to go. I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through.
Love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything.
Alright everyone, welcome back to another video. And today what I have for everyone is we're going to dive into the camera testing for the Moto Edge 2020. So this is what we're about to do today. Starting off, we're out here in shooting space number 1 and we're testing out the front-facing 25 megapixel camera in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. We got it set up in like a vlog style, selfie style video. So you guys and gals, let me know how you feel the cameras are performing. How's the audio? How's the overall video quality? Leave all that feedback down below in the comments. All right, now let me spin the cameras around and let's get to testing out the rear facing cameras in this same lighting scenario. Give me a second, I'll be right back. Let's go. Alright everyone, and now we're testing out the ultra-wide primary telephoto and time of flight sensor, testing out the rear-facing cameras on the Moto Edge 2020 in the same scenario as earlier, and this is also being recorded in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. So let me know how the cameras perform and let's dive into today's testing. Alright? And this is truly going to be a microphone test because it is gorgeous here today, but it is extremely windy here today as well. But let's do our regular testing. Let's go. Let's start off with our pans first. So we're going to pan from here all the way through to right about there and back. We're going to do this 3 times. So that was number 1. Here we go with number 2. And back. And let's do number 3. Okay, come back to the center. Now what I want to do is I want to switch to the primary and we're going to redo the same test. So let's switch to the primary now. Okay, now we're on the primary sensor. So started out testing out the ultra-wide 16 megapixel sensor. Now we're testing out the primary 64 megapixel sensor. All right, so here we go. Let's do the pans again. So let's start from here all the way through to there, and notice the difference in the field of view. So that's 1. Let's run it again. Here we go with number 2. That's 2. And let's do number 3. And that's 3. Okay. Let's come back to the center now. Now let's switch back to the ultra wide. And now let's test the exposure. We're going to pan up and down to test the exposure. Now for reference, it's not quite super sunny, but it's not quite super shady. Out there it's kind of sunny. And then right about here, the borderline for the grass is kind of where the shade kicks in. So this should be a good overall test as to how these cameras handle exposure. So we're going to pan up and down from the tree in the distance there to the ground. And what should happen is the cameras should shift evenly and quickly from the lighter areas to the darker areas with no exposure blowout. And if the cameras do blow out, they need to recover as evenly and as quickly as possible. So let's see how these cameras perform. Let's test the ultra wide cameras first. Here we go. So we're lined up on the tree and we're going to pan down to the ground. Also pay attention to the difference in the field of view again. Here we go. Up, down. Okay. Coming back up. How was that? Let's go down again. So up, down. How was that? One more time. Up, down. Okay. How was that? How did the ultra wide cameras do? Now let's switch to the primaries. All right. So now we're on the primary 64 megapixel sensor. Let's do it again. So up, down. And notice the difference in the field of view. I'm trying to move my hands the same amount. So you can see I'm trying to do the same movements when we're testing the ultra wide and the primary. Look at the difference in the field of view. So let's go back up. Okay. Up, and let's go down. Okay. And let's go back up. How was that? And let's do it one more time. Up and down. And let's go back up. How did it do? Was there any exposure shifting? Was there any struggling? Leave your feedback down below in the comments. Let's go. Now let's test out the focus. So let's go back to the ultra wide. Okay. And now let's test out the focus. Now for reference, we're going to use the bushes to the far left as one focal subject. We're going to use the tree in front of us here as another focal subject. And we're going to use this pillar off to my right here as the third focal subject. And we're going to test the cameras ultra wide and primary using continuous autofocus. So the phone is going to do everything, and then tap to focus. Okay? And we're going to do it 3 times each. And I want y'all to let me know how you feel the cameras perform. So let's go. Continuous autofocus first. So we're going to go to the left. Bushes to the left. How does that look? Okay. Tree in front. How about that? Pillar to the right. How does that look? Okay, let's go again. Bushes to the left. Tree in the front. Pillar to the right. How is that? One more time. Bushes to the left. Tree in the front. Pillar to the right. Bam. Now, let's do the tap to focus. So let me adjust my grip. And let's go again. Bushes to the left. Tap. Locked up. Super fast autofocus. Okay. Or tap to focus. My mistake. Good stuff there. Tree in the middle. Tap. Locked up. Again, super fast. And then pillar to the right. Tap. Locked up. Woo, look at that overexposure there. Look at them clouds. Look at the trees. Woo. Wow. But it did a very good job of locking on focus onto the pillar. But boy, if that didn't overexpose with some quickness. Look at the clouds. Look at the sky. Look at that. Woo. Alright, let's do it one more time. Bushes to the left. Tap. Locked up. See, you can see a little bit of an exposure adjustment with the bushes, but it's not as bad as when we get to the pillar. Okay? Okay, tree in the middle. Tap. Locked up, and the tree in the middle is actually not that bad. Okay? But the tree in the middle is actually the most well-lit object, so it's not going to be that bad. And then the pillar to the right, tap it, lock it up. Okay, it didn't struggle with the exposure as bad that time. It did a lot better the second time there. Locked up focus fairly quickly, didn't struggle with the exposure adjustments at all. Alright, so good stuff. Let's do it one more time. Okay, coming over, bushes, tap it. A little bit of an exposure adjustment there. Tree in the center, tap it. Really quick, not too much of an exposure adjustment there. And then pillar to the right, tap it. And once again, we're struggling with the exposure again. Alright, but really fast overall focus. How do you feel the ultra-wide cameras perform there? Now let's go back to the center. Let's switch to the primaries. And let's do continuous autofocus now. So we're going to do it again. Bushes to the left. What do y'all think? That looks lined up to me. Tree in the middle. What do you think? And then pillar to the right. There is a noticeable bump in detail based on what my eyes could see. Okay? Let's go again. Bushes to the left. Tree in the center. Pillar to the right. One more time. Bushes to the left. Tree in the center. Pillar to the right. Okay? Okay. Let me adjust my grip now, and let's do the tap to focus. So bushes, tap, locked up. Again, super fast on the focusing lock. Not bad. Tree in the front. Tap it. Locked it up. Not bad. Here's the tough one. Pillar. Tap it. Oh, not bad. Okay, so the primary camera is definitely a lot better than the ultra-wide camera. It's to be expected. It definitely didn't struggle with the exposure with the primary, whereas it did struggle a lot with the ultra-wide. But the primary camera is usually the best camera on the device, so I was kind of expecting that. But not bad. Super fast focus all the way around. Let's do it again. Bushes to the left. Tap. Locked up. Tree in the center. Tap. Locked up. Pillar to the right. Tap. Locked up. Okay, yeah. Definitely. The primary camera is doing a much better job. One more time. Bushes to the left. Tap. Locked up. Tree in the middle. Tap. Locked up. And then pillar to the right. Tap. Locked up. Really good stuff there with the primary cameras. Alright. Now, lastly, I want to do a zoom test for everyone. So you see that big bush out there in the distance? We're going to lock the focus. I'm going to dial in the exposure. So let's dial in that exposure. Perfect for the scene. Right there. Let's lock it up. And now we're going to zoom in. Okay? So now we're on the primary camera at 1x zoom. Let's go up to 1.5. This is 1.5. What do you think? Okay? Let's go up to 2.5. This is 2.5. What do you think? And honestly, this is where I would stop with my recommendations. I honestly never recommend you zoom in more than 2.5 times. If you need to get closer to your subject after this, you need to physically move closer. But let's keep going now. So 2.5, let's go 3.5. 3.5. What do you think? What do you think? We kind of lost the sun. So these cameras are definitely going to start to struggle the more we zoom in. But 3.5 times. Let's keep going. 4.5. 4.5 times. 5.5. 5.5 times. And then let's max it out. So it maxes out at 10 times zoom there. Look at the detail loss. Look at the graininess. Look at the stabilization. This is why you never want to zoom in the maximum zoom range on your device, because you're just digitally degrading the image when you get maxed all the way in. Okay? You really want to keep it at most up to 2.5 times. But just so y'all can see what the cameras are capable of, there it is. Ooh, that doesn't look good at all. Let's zoom back out. Okay? And now we are on the ultra wide again. Okay? Alright, so this has been a real quick test, testing out the front and the rear facing cameras on the Moto G Edge 2020, or Moto G Edge, the Moto Edge 2020, my mistake. Let me know what you guys and gals think of this. Now I want to run inside and I want to test out these same cameras indoors, daytime, low light scenarios. Let's see how they perform in that scenario. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back with the next set of tests for everyone. I'll see you in a little bit. Alright everyone, and now we're testing out the front and rear facing cameras on the Moto Edge 2020 indoors, daytime, low light scenario. Starting off here, we're testing out the front facing 25 megapixel camera indoors, daytime, low light. This is being recorded in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. And we got a nice little vlog style selfie video test here. You guys and gals, let me know how you feel the cameras are performing in this lower light scenario. Okay? Now let's spin the cameras around and let's test out the rear facing primary cameras in this same lighting scenario. Let's see how they perform. So give me 1 second. Let me spin the cameras around and I'll be right back with y'all with the next set of tests. I'll see y'all in a little bit. Alright everyone, and now we are back in and we're going to test out the ultra wide and primary cameras on the Moto Edge 2020 indoors, daytime, low light lighting scenarios here. So I just wanted to show y'all, starting off with the ultra wide camera, the ultra wide 16 megapixel camera. You can see how badly it's performing in this daytime low light scenario. And then just for reference, let me show y'all. So lighting up the scene here today is just the natural light coming in through my window. Y'all can see my studio lights are turned off. My smart lights are turned off. All my other lights are turned off. The only thing we have lighting up the scene here today is the natural light coming in through my window. Y'all can see I cracked my shades. This is why I would call this an indoor daytime low light shot. Okay? So I just wanted to show y'all that for verification. Y'all already know if I turn these studio lights on, y'all know how bright it's going to get. Y'all have seen me demonstrate my studio light brightness in other videos. So that should tell y'all. Y'all should be able to tell when I'm using my studio lights from when I'm not. Okay? Now, let's angle this back over and let's get into the testing. Please forgive my messy desk. I got a bunch of devices, a bunch of cleaning materials, a bunch of face masks up there. Please forget that. But let's angle this up into the traditional reviewer style angle. Let me fix my keyboard a little bit down here. And then let's angle this down. And boom. So this is what the ultra wide camera would look like. That's a little bit off center. This is what the ultra wide camera would look like indoors, daytime, low light scenarios here. Okay? Check that out. And actually I got to angle it this way. There we go. That's it. Now it's straight. Okay? Check that out. So this is the ultra wide 16 megapixel camera. Right? Let me hold up my keyboard. Y'all check for details here. So check this out. How legible is that? How readable is that? You can see it's actually quite grainy in this lower light scenario. Okay? Putting it down. Boom. Lining it back up. Now, pay attention to the difference in field of view when we switch to the primary camera. So this is the ultra wide. Now let's go to the primary. And that's the primary. Y'all saw that? Look at the overall difference in quality. You see how much more better the image got even though we're in the same lighting scenario? Okay? Let me show you again. Ultra wide. Okay? Primary. Okay? And it does a little pulsing effect when it switches too. I don't know if y'all could catch that. But check out the difference in detail here. It's much better on the primary camera in this lower light daytime scenario here. Let me hold up the keyboard here and give y'all another shot. Again, how legible is this? How readable is this? Still struggling a little bit even though we're using the better camera here. So the Moto cameras definitely want to have the most light possible so they can get their best performance. Okay? Definitely want to make sure you have good light when you're using these cameras. Alright. Now, real quickly before we get up out of here, I want to do a focusing test for y'all in this indoor daytime low light scenario here. So we got my old but good S7 active here. You can see, definitely struggling to focus right here. Definitely need some assistance. Let me tap and assist it. There we go. So it definitely struggles to focus in lower light scenarios here. Let me tap again. There we go. How legible is that smaller text? How readable is that smaller text? You can see it created a nice shallow depth of field here around the edges in the background. But it's definitely struggling in this lower light scenario here. Let's see how quickly it can lock back on focus on the keyboard here. If I take the device out, ready, 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. So it did a little bit better job relocking focus after the fact, whereas it struggled when it was getting initial focus to the point where I had to use tap to focus to help it. But let's see how quickly it can lock back on focus if I bring the device back in. Let's see. So bringing it back in. Okay, so it definitely did a better job on the relock than it did on the initial lock. So coming down to the smaller text here. Again, how legible is that? How readable is that? Okay. And let's see how quickly it will lock back on focus on the keyboard when I take the device out. 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. And it actually did a much better job on the relock the second time. So you can see a trend here, right? And I think this trend is going to persist as we go throughout the testing. It's definitely going to struggle in lower light. But if you assist it with the tap to focus and the exposure and focus locking controls, you should still be able to get a good image and some usable video and photos. But you definitely want to make sure you have, at the bare minimum, good light to do whatever you're trying to do with the device. Prime example, let me use tap to focus, and we're going to redo our detail on the keyboard test here. All right. So tapping in, look at how much more legible it is reading the keyboard with tap to focus. Look at that. As opposed to the autofocus in this lower light scenario. Look at that. Okay? Look at that. So you definitely want to learn how to use the tap to focus in lower light scenarios because the continuous autofocus is definitely going to struggle. Okay? Okay. So this does it for the first set of initial tests, testing out the front and rear facing cameras on the Moto Edge 2020. Okay, now what I'm going to do is a little bit later on in the evening, I'm going to come back and we're going to retest these cameras again, indoors, nighttime, artificial light settings here, and see how the cameras perform. And then a little bit later on this week, we're going to switch locations and test out the cameras again in 1080p at 60 FPS. And then at the end of the week, we're going to switch locations again and test out the cameras in 4K at 30 FPS. Now, I want to let everyone know I am going to downsample the 4K footage to 2K because my editor really struggles with the 4K footage. It doesn't struggle as badly with 2K footage. So I'm going to take the 4K footage and I'm going to downsample it to 2K, but still you should get a really good overall general representation of how the cameras perform at 4K because I'm just taking the original file and cutting it down a little bit. Okay? But the overall quality should still be really good. Alright, so give me a little bit and I'll be back with the next set of tests for everyone. I'll see you in a little bit. Alright. Alright, everyone. And now we are back in testing out the front and the rear facing cameras on the Moto Edge 2020 in nighttime artificial lighting scenarios here. So starting off the testing, we're testing out the front-facing 25 megapixel camera in nighttime artificial lighting in a selfie style, vlog style test. So this is being recorded in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. Please let me know what y'all think of the overall footage, the overall stabilization, and the overall audio down below in the comments. Y'all know all feedback is greatly appreciated. What do y'all think? Alright, let me spin the cameras around and we'll test out the rear facing cameras in this same lighting scenario. Give me a second, I'll be right back with the next set of tests for everyone. I'll see y'all in a little bit. Alright everyone, so as promised, all I did was spin the cameras around and push record. So now we're testing out the ultra wide and primary cameras on the Moto Edge 2020. And this is a nighttime artificial lighting test. This is being recorded in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. So let's do some quick verifications and then let's dive into the testing. Let's go. So panning over here, y'all can see my studio lights are turned off, but my smart room lights are turned on and it's set to exact white, right? But y'all can see we have no natural light coming in through the window there. Y'all can see it's pitch black outside. So it is indeed nighttime artificial light testing here. Okay? So now let's pan back over and angle everything up in the traditional reviewer style angle here. So straight on and let's pan it down. Boom, just like that. And I'm slightly off center. There we go. That's perfectly straight. And now let's straighten this out. Boom. And this is what the ultra wide cameras look like in this lighting scenario. And you can see it's struggling to get that focus. Let's tap and help it out. And then it finally got focus after we tapped to help it out. But you can see this is usable. Now, I don't really like the tint of light that the cameras are reproducing, but this is usable. If I had to record something and it was nighttime and I didn't want to use my studio lights, this is passable footage. So let's pick my keyboard up here and check the detail. Yeah, this is passable footage. A little bit grainy as I look through the viewfinder, but legible and usable. Alright, and this is the ultra wide 16 megapixel camera. Okay? Okay? So one thing I want y'all to take note of with the ultra wide camera is the field of view and the detail. Okay? You got it? Notice how much more we're getting in the field of view here. Right? Now, let's switch to the primary camera. Boom. And now we're on the primary camera. And look at the difference in field of view. Look how much we lost in terms of field of view. You can't even get my mouse in the shot anymore. And if I back up to give you a similar angle, I got to back up a little bit. And then this is the similar angle that I had with the ultra wide, but we still can't get my mouse in the shot. Alright, let's do that again. Check out the field of view here. Check this out. So ultra wide, and again, look at how the ultra wide struggles with focus, because it's trying to use the autofocus, so we got to tap to help it out. And then it finally grabs the focus. And then now let's go into the primary. Check this out. Primary. Right? Check that out. Primary. Now, notice the quality of the video got better, but we lost a really big amount in terms of the field of view. And you can see when we switch to the primary camera, it's a lot better sensor, it's a lot better camera, so there's no issues with struggling to focus. So that autofocus is really doing the job. And you can see, look at how much more legible the keys are, right? This is good stuff. This is really good stuff. Again, I don't like the hue of lighting that the camera is recreating, but if I didn't want to turn my studio lights on and I just wanted to use these cameras, I definitely would use the primary cameras to get the video shot that I'm looking for, right? Because look at how legible these keys are. Look at that. That's beautiful. Panning it through. Look at that. Okay? That is awesome. Right? And this is the type of quality I would expect from a flagship grade camera. Right? You know? Good stuff. Now, let's do a quick focusing test with the primary cameras, and then we'll wrap this section of the testing up. So we're bringing in the S7 Active right here. Look at how nicely it locked focus on the S7 Active there. Look at the nice shallow depth of field going on in the background. Looking real nice and crispy. Let's go down to that lower text at the bottom. How legible is that? How readable is that? With the primary camera, this is pretty damn good. This is good stuff, right? And now let's see how quickly the autofocus will lock back up on the keyboard when we take the device out of the frame. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. And it locked up almost instantly with no hesitation. And now we're back locked on the keyboard. So that should show you guys and gals right there the difference in quality between the ultra wide and primary cameras. Now, the ultra wide cameras you definitely want to use only when you have good to really good lighting and above. When you know that your situation is going to suffer in terms of the lighting, you definitely want to stick with the primary cameras. Or if you just want the best overall video in general, you want to go straight to the primary cameras, because the primary camera, the 64 megapixel camera, is the best camera on this device. Alright, let's do that one more time, and then let's wrap this portion of the testing up. So bringing the device back in. Again, look how quickly it locked focus on the back of the device. Look at how it picks out the stipple pattern on the back of the device, the AT&T tramp stamp. Look how it picks that out. Not bad at all. I still don't like the hue of lighting that it's creating. I could tell y'all in real life, my lights are not giving off this orangey hue that it's creating on video. But it is what it is. Going down to the smaller text. Look at that. That's nice and legible. That's really good stuff right there. How readable is that? How legible is that? Based on what I'm seeing through the viewfinder, this is perfect. Look at the nice shallow depth of field going on in the background as well, around my fingertips and around the edges of the device. Really nice natural depth of field there. And again, let's see how quickly it locks back up on focus on the keyboard when I take the device out. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. And we're back on the keyboard. So relatively fast. A little bit of hesitation that time. The first time I did that, it was much quicker. It was a little bit slower the second time around. But this should give y'all an overall idea of how the ultra wide and primary cameras perform depending on the light and the time of day that you're using them. Again, and this was a nighttime artificial lighting scenario here. Alright, so that pretty much does it for the 1080p 30 FPS footage. Now, tomorrow, we're going to test out the cameras again in a different location in 1080p at 60 FPS. And then maybe Friday, we're going to test out the cameras again and wrap up the video in 4K at 30 FPS. And remember, we're going to downsample this whole video to 2K just to make it easier on my editing software. My editing software doesn't handle 4K footage too well, so I'm going to downsample it to 2K, making it a little bit easier for the editing process. But overall, I think the final video should look great overall, and you guys and gals should get a really nice idea of how the cameras perform. Alright, I hope y'all enjoyed this section of the video. It's going to be a few days for me. It's going to be a couple seconds for y'all. But let's jump into the next set of tests here. Let's go. I'll see y'all in a little bit. Alright everyone, and now we're testing out the primary cameras on the Moto Edge 2020. Again, in 1080p at 60 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. And we're out here at one of my favorite parks here this morning, and I figured I'd just break it up, do a little change of scenery, and test out the camera. So starting off here, we got a real quick vlog style, selfie style test. Okay, and now let's spin the cameras around and get into our traditional testing. But you guys and gals, be sure to let me know what you think of the overall video quality, the overall audio quality, and the overall stabilization. Alright, now let's spin the cameras around and get into our usual testing. And I kind of like this. I might make this a regular recording spot. You know, it's kind of early. I got up kind of early to do this, but I don't really sleep anyway, so it was really nothing to get up early and do this. So I might make this a regular recording spot to test out the cameras on some devices that I have coming up. But that's enough talk. Let's spin these cameras around and get into our usual testing. Let's go. Okay, and then now, as promised, y'all can see we're out here at the park. And let's get into our traditional testing here. Now, it's kind of early. The sun was out, but you can see we do got a batch of clouds that just rolled in. So we just lost the sun, but it might come back out. But let's get into our usual testing. So we're going to do our pans. We're going to do our exposure test, and then we're going to end with our zoom/stabilization test. And let's go. So starting off here, we're going to pan from here, okay, all the way through to right about there and back. We're going to do this 3 times. So that was 1. Come on back. Okay, here we go with number 2. And yeah, the sun's starting to come back out, huh? And back. And here we go with number 3. And back. So we're going to come back to the center. And now we're going to do our exposure test. And I can already tell you, these cameras are really struggling with this kind of sunny, but kind of overcast day. So this is really a super duper test of how the cameras perform. But let's do this exposure test. So y'all can see we're lined up on the swings right now. And we're going to pan down to the ground and back up to the swings. And we're going to see how the cameras do with adjusting for changes in exposure. So when we pan up and down, we want a nice even transition between the lighter areas of the scene to the darker areas of the scene with minimal exposure blowout. And if the cameras do blow out, we want them to recover as evenly and as quickly as possible. So let's see how the primary 64 megapixel camera on the Moto Edge 2020 does. Let's go. So panning down. Okay. And coming back up. And that's 1. Oh man, you can see that big shift in exposure. Panning down. And coming back up. That's 2. Okay. And 1 more. Panning down. And coming back up. That's 3. And you can see we kind of have more sun coming out to my left. So it's really going to struggle now unless the park gets fully lit. But now let's do a real quick focusing test. Y'all know how we do. So I'm going to pick 3 focal subjects here, and we're going to see how the continuous autofocus works on the Moto Edge 2020. And then we're going to adjust my grip, and we're going to see how the tap to focus works on the Moto Edge 2020. And then we're going to finish off with a zoom/stabilization test. So let's go continuous autofocus first. So I kind of like this wood pillar right here. We'll make that focal subject number 1, and it is off to my far right. And I also like the blue poles for the swings. We'll make that focal subject number 2. And let's make it hard. We're gonna pick something deep into the sun. We're gonna use that bench right there. That's gonna be focal subject number 3. That's gonna be to my almost far left. All right, so let's see how the focus does. Okay, so starting off here, let's go to the pillar to the right. That actually looks really, really good. Let's go to the blue pole there in the center. Kind of hard to see with all the sun to one side and kind of a shadow effect going to the other, but y'all let me know. I'm gonna have to watch this back in post when the sun is not directly in my face to see. And then we're gonna go to the bench all the way to the right. And you can see just how bad the sun is, because look at how bright it is on the bench there. That's 1. We're gonna do this 2 times. So that was 1. Coming back over, pillar to the right. That actually looks pretty good. So depending on how the sun falls, it actually does a really good job. Pole to the center. Okay. And then bench to the right. Not bad, not bad at all. Now let me adjust my grip, and we'll do tap to focus twice. So grip adjusted, coming over to the pillar, tap, locked up. That was insanely fast. But then again, with this particular subject, when you turn this way, the sun is actually backlighting it perfectly, so the focus should be excellent. This is the harder one right here, blue pole, because that's kind of an even lit / shade, so you can see how it kind of overexposes the focus, but that's not bad either. And then we got the park bench here off to the right. Okay, as we got the little cement truck rolling through. So now y'all will get a real audio test as well. But that focus was not bad either. Okay, not bad at all. So that was 1. Okay, let's go back over. Pillar, tap. Good, that's 2, focused up. Pole, tap, 3, that's good. Okay, and then bench, tap, 4. And you can see it's really struggling with the exposure here, but you can easily rectify this by dialing in the exposure and dialing in the focus and then locking it exactly the way you want. But this is just to let y'all see how it performs. I actually feel as though it did a better job with the autofocus, but you could definitely see it's struggling with the focus when we use tap to focus here. Okay? Not bad at all. You can see everybody's out doing their morning routines. We got a bunch of trucks and cars rolling by. Woo! I'm wondering how the audio is going to sound on this. We'll find out when I watch it back in post. We'll find out. Now, let's do a quick zoom test to finish this out. So you can see there's a climbing wall all the way in the distance over there. So let's lock the focus on that. Okay, let's adjust the exposure for it. Make sure the scene looks perfect. That's overexposed. Let's underexpose it a little bit. Just like that. That's perfect to the scene. And then let's lock it up. So I locked the focus, I locked the exposure, and now let's zoom in. Now, as I said in previous video tests, when you're using the primary cameras in 1080p 60, you can really only use the primary 64 megapixel sensor. So I don't have access to the ultra wide sensor or any of that. So we're just particularly using the primary 64 megapixel sensor when we're recording in 1080p at 60 FPS. That's why if you check out the first clip, you can see it was kind of more zoomed in than usual, but it is what it is. I did the best I could. So let's get to zooming now. So this is one time zoom. Let's go up to 1.5. That's 1.5. Okay. Let's go up to 2.5. That's 2.5. And wow, does it get grainy quick shooting at 1080p 60. I wonder if the post video is going to look as grainy as what I'm seeing on the viewfinder, but that's 2 times zoom. Look at that. I don't know how much I like that. And then let's go into 4 times zoom, 4.5 times zoom to be exact, 4.2, 4.5. Look at that. Oh boy. So the higher the resolution, the more it's going to struggle when you start zooming in. Look at that. And then check out the stabilization here. And then do we still have the max 10 times zoom? Let's zoom in all the way. So yeah, we still do have the max 10 times zoom. But look what happens when you zoom in all the way. Oh no, that's pretty much unusable. So realistically speaking, if you're going to record in 1080p at 60 FPS, you probably want to stick right here at 1 time zoom. This is going to give you the best overall video. But zooming in, nah, it's not going to look the best. So if you need to get closer to your subject, you need to physically move closer to your subject. And it's funny because even though I've locked the focus and locked the exposure, you can see it's still struggling with the exposure as we lose the sun again. But it is what it is. These are what these video tests are for, to let y'all see just how the cameras perform when you take them out in different scenarios. So I hope you guys and gals enjoyed this real quick test. Now, a little bit later on, we're going to test out the cameras for the final time in 4K at 30 FPS, and I'm going to give y'all my thoughts. So give me a little bit. It's going to be a couple hours for me. It's going to be a few seconds for y'all, but I'll be right back. I'll see y'all in a little bit. All right, everyone. And now we're testing out the rear-facing primary cameras on the Moto Edge 2020 in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. Okay, and now we're testing those cameras out indoors, daytime, low light scenarios, right? So, y'all are probably wondering, yo, where's the front-facing 1080p 60 footage? Well, the front-facing camera on the Moto Edge 2020 can only record up to 1080p at 30 FPS. So all the 1080p 60 footage, right, and all the 4K 30 FPS footage will be done with the rear-facing camera, right? So if you went to vlog, right, with your rear-facing cameras and you wanted to do it at 1080p 60 FPS, this is an idea of what it may look like, okay? Now let me spin the cameras around and let's get into testing out these cameras again in a more traditional reviewer style angle. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. I'll see y'all in a little bit. Okay, so as promised now, I just spun the cameras around, and now we're going to test out the rear-facing cameras in a more traditional reviewer style approach. Okay, and this too is being recorded in 1080p at 60 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. I made a little bit of a mistake there in the previous clip, but I'm not going to cut it out. I'll probably add little annotations so y'all know exactly what it is down below somewhere in the video. Okay? But another interesting thing is when you record in 1080p at 60 FPS, you're limited to using just the 64 megapixel primary camera. So I no longer have access to my ultra wide camera when I record in 1080p at 60 FPS. But let's do some verifications and jump into today's testing. So once again, we're testing the cameras indoors, daytime, low light scenarios. And let me just show y'all here. So if I pan over, y'all can see my studio lights is turned off and my smart lights are turned off. So the only light we have lighting up the scene here today is the natural light coming in through my windows. So that indeed does make this an indoor daytime low light test. Okay, quick verification for everyone. All right, now let's angle everything back over and let's angle everything into the traditional reviewer style angle. So let me slide forward a little bit and let's angle everything down. Boom. And I can already tell because of the closeness, I'm gonna have to back up a little bit. There we go. There we go. And again, and y'all can see, similar to what I mentioned earlier, we really don't get that much in the frame when we use the primary 64 megapixel camera. Alright? So you can see I have it lined up as to how I would have it if I was using the ultra wide, and you can see it's not getting my mouse in the shot. So we definitely lose a lot in terms of the field of view when we use the primary camera, but we do get the bump in quality. The primary 64 megapixel camera is the best camera on the device, and you can see even in this lower light scenario, if I hold up my keyboard here, this footage here is more than usable. Look how crisp, look how sharp the text on the keyboard is. Even in this lower light scenario, this is some nice usable footage. Look at that. That is awesome. So, yes, we do lose some view in terms of field of view, but what we lose in field of view, we gain in resolution or quality, right? So, you know, this device does have its upsides and it does have its downsides, and that's kind of the trade-off there. Now, let's do a quick focusing test, and then we can wrap up this portion of the testing for the video. So let's bring in the S7 Active here. Look how quickly it locked on focus. Look at the detail. Look at the nice stipple pattern that's coming across on camera there. Look at the detail. That is awesome, right? And then if we go down to the sharper text, wow, look at how legible and how readable that is, even in this low light scenario. That looks super duper crispy right there. I have no problems reading that through the viewfinder right there. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? Leave your feedback down below in the comments. Y'all know how that goes, right? Now let's see how quickly it locks back up on focus on the keyboard when I take the device out. Let's do this 2 times. Ready? Number 1, 3, 2, 1, go. Boom, and we're right back on the keyboard. So this just goes to show you, as I mentioned earlier in the video, the primary camera is by far the best camera. And you can see even in a lower light scenario, the primary camera is still going to perform relatively nicely. Let's do it one more time. So bringing my device back in. Look at how quickly it locked back up on focus there. Look at that nice stipple pattern going on there. Let's go back to the small text at the bottom. Look at how sharp and legible that is. Look at the nice shallow depth of field going on around my fingers and around the bottom edge of the device. And once again, let's see how quickly it locks back up on focus on the keyboard when I take my device out. So ready, 3, 2, 1, go. Boom, and we're back. So even in this lower light scenario, you're still getting relatively quick focus and you're getting a good amount of detail that makes this footage more than usable in my opinion. Okay, more than usable indeed. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till a little bit later on in the evening, and we're going to test out the cameras again in 1080p 60 again in nighttime artificial lighting scenarios. And then a little bit later on at the end of the week, we're going to test out the cameras again in 4K at 30 FPS. Alright? So give me a little bit. It's going to be a few hours for me, but it's going to be a couple seconds for you guys. And I'll be back with the next set of tests for everyone. I'll see y'all in a little bit. Alright everyone. And now we are back in testing out the cameras on the Moto Edge 2020. Now we're testing out the cameras in 1080p at 60 FPS in nighttime artificial lighting scenarios here. So starting off the testing, we're testing out the primary 64 megapixel camera in a nighttime artificial lighting selfie style vlog style test. Okay? And once again, this is being recorded in 1080p at 60 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. So let me know what y'all think of this test. How's the overall audio? How's the overall video? How's the overall stabilization? Let me know in the comments down below. Now let me spin the cameras around and let's test out these cameras again in a traditional reviewer style test. Okay, give me 1 second. I'll be right back with everyone with the next set of tests. I'll see y'all in a little bit. Alright everyone, so as promised, I spun the cameras around and we're going to test out the primary 64 megapixel camera in 1080p at 60 FPS in a traditional reviewer style test. But first, let me do some quick verifications and then we'll jump into the testing. Let's go. So, as I said earlier, this is being recorded at nighttime with artificial lighting. So you can see there is no natural light coming in through my window here. Y'all can see I left the shades cracked. But if I pan over, y'all can see my room smart lights are on and it's set to exact white. But you can also see that my studio lights are turned off. So this way you know that I am indeed testing out these cameras at nighttime with artificial lighting. Okay? Just quick verification right there for everyone. Okay? Now, let's spin this bad boy around. Let's line everything up in the traditional reviewer style angle and let's pan them down. There we go. I gotta back up a little bit. Alright. Line this up, make sure this is straight. And now here is what the primary 64 megapixel camera looks like in 1080p at 60 FPS in nighttime artificial lighting settings. Okay? And if you go back to a previous test that we did in this video, pay attention to the difference in the field of view. Now, when you record in 60 FPS, you can only use the primary 64 megapixel camera. You can't use the ultra wide camera. Okay? That's why we're only testing out the primary 64 megapixel camera in the 1080p 60 FPS testing clips. Because we can't use the ultra wide camera if we record in 1080p at 60 FPS. Okay? But notice the detail here. Like if I pick my keyboard up, look at how crisp and sharp this detail is even in this artificial lighting scenario here. Look how legible those keys are. Okay? And if I pan it through, look at that. Look at that. Okay? Now, once again, I have to say the cameras are not accurately representing the scene. They're kind of making it look more washed out than it actually is. So I kind of don't like that, but I'm noticing that in my testing with the Moto Edge 2020, that's kind of a common theme. If you don't have good light or really good light or better, then you're kind of not going to get a accurate representation of the scene in terms of videos and photos. And I'm sure if you guys and gals go back and check out the photo samples, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay? But real quickly here before we wrap this test up, let's do a quick focusing and detail test, and then we're going to wrap this test up right here. So, going to bring in my S7 Active right here that we're going to use as a focal subject. And look how quickly it locked on focus. Look at the nice detail that it's able to pull from the back of the device. Look at the nice stipple pattern there on the back of the device. Look at the nice shallow depth of field that it blurs out the background real nicely. Now that's natural depth of field. That's not an effect by a mode in the camera. That's natural shallow depth of field there, or bokeh. And then if we go up and we try to lock in focus on the smaller text on the bottom, look at that. How legible is that? How readable is that? That actually looks pretty good. Now we're going to pull the device out and see how quickly the cameras lock back on focus on the keyboard. We're going to do this 2 times. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. And we're back on the keyboard. That's relatively fast. I got to say, that's pretty good. Now let's do it one more time. So bringing the device back in. Boom. And you can see a little bit of hesitation there to lock focus on the device, but still really, really nice. Okay. Going up to the sharper text at the bottom, that smaller text at the bottom. Check that out. Again, let me know down below in the comments, how sharp is that? How legible is that? And once again, let's check the focusing speeds here. Move it out of the frame. See how quickly it locks back on focus on the keyboard. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. And we're back on the keyboard. So really, really good stuff. And if I'm being 100% honest with y'all, after going back and looking at the 1080p footage and then looking at the 1080p 60 footage, it's actually really, really good footage, regardless of whichever resolution and frame rate that I decide to record in. But if it was me, I'd probably just stick to recording in 1080p and save a little bit of storage space. The detail is good, but 1080p 60, sometimes you could have compatibility issues where you lose the audio, whereas 1080p 30, it's more widely known and widely compatible. So if it was me, I would just stick to shooting in 1080p at 30 FPS. But I wanted to test this out for everyone so you get an idea of what it looks like if you are thinking about picking this device up. Okay? So now, a little bit later on in the week here, we're going to test out these cameras again in 4K at 30 FPS. And I'm going to give y'all my thoughts as to whether or not I like these cameras and I like this device overall. And the only reason why I do it like this is because I know a lot of people make their device purchasing decision strictly based on how good or how bad the cameras perform on the device, because for a lot of people, their smart device is the only device that they have, right? So for a lot of people, they're looking to spend the least amount of money but get the most amount of performance, okay? And i.e., cameras is a big deal to a lot of people, okay? So that's why I do my videos like this, and that's why I make my recommendations in 2 formats. I do it in my full reviews, where I recommend the device overall as a whole, but I also do it in my camera reviews, like this video here, where I recommend devices strictly based off of how the cameras perform, okay? Because like I said, a lot of people make their purchases strictly based off of how good the cameras perform and how much money they have to spend, okay? And this device right here is actually available at a really great price. So I can see why a lot of people would be looking forward to picking up this device. And, you know, a little bit of a spoiler, one of the reasons why I didn't pick up this device so quickly to start with is because this device right here is almost always out of stock, okay? I actually got the last unit that was still in stock when I made my purchase, okay? But this device right here is almost always going out of stock, okay? So a lot of people seem to like it. And if I'm being honest, it seems to be pretty good. But let's do one more test in 4K at 30 FPS, and let me gather my thoughts and give y'all my recommendations. Alright, so it's going to be a couple days for me. It's going to be a couple seconds for you guys and gals. But I'll be right back with the final set of camera tests, video tests, for the Moto Edge 2020. I'll see y'all in a little bit. Alright everyone, and here we are out in the big yard doing the final set of camera tests for the rear-facing cameras on the Moto Edge 2020. So these set of clips are going to be recorded in 4K at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. So please let me know what y'all think of the overall video quality, as well as what you think of the overall audio quality down below in the comments. And without further ado, let's dive into today's camera test. Let's go. So let's start off with our pans first. So we're going to pan all the way from here, all the way through to right about there and back. We're going to do this 2 times. So that was 1. Here we go with number 2. All right. And let's come back to the center. And now let's do our exposure test. Okay. So we're going to pan up and down to the ground here. We're going to use this big tree in front of us as our main focal point. And let's see how the cameras transition between the exposure points when we pan up and down to the ground. And remember, we want a nice even transition from the lighter areas to the darker areas with minimal to no exposure blowout. And if the cameras do blow out, we want them to recover as evenly and as quickly as possible. Here we go. So lined up on the tree and going down to the ground. Okay, going back up to the tree. How was that? We're going to do this 3 times. So that was 1. Going down again. Coming up. That's 2. 1 more time. Going down again. Coming up. That's 3. Alright. So now let's pick our 3 focal points and do some focus testing. And then we're going to end the video with a long range zoom test. Let's go. So we're going to pick this tree directly in front of us. Right. I like that. Then we're also going to pick that baby tree off to the right of us, right there. You can see it in the center of your frame here. And then we're also going to pick that big tree over the top of the shed. That's going to be focal subject number 3. All right. So the first test, we're going to test continuous autofocus, meaning the phone is going to be doing all the work. And let's see how it performs. Then I'm going to adjust my grip, and we're going to use the tap to focus and see if we can spot any differences. Let's go. So starting off here, tree in front. That looks good. Tree off to the right. That also looks good. Tree over the shed. That looks good too. That's 1. We're going to do this 3 times. Going again. Tree in front. That's good. Tree to the right. That's also good. Tree over the shed. That's 2. Going again. Tree in front. Tree to the right. Tree over the shed. Okay, good stuff. Let me readjust my grip now. And let's do tap to focus. Here we go. Tree in front. Tap. Locked up. Tree to the right. Tap. Locked up. A little bit of an exposure adjustment there. And tree over the shed. Tap. Locked up. Really quick overall focus though. Really quick indeed. That's 1. We're going to do this 2 times. So tree in front. Tap. Locked up. Tree to the right. Tap. Locked up. Tree over the shed. Whoop. Tap. Locked up. That's 2. Really fast overall focus, especially when you have really good to great lighting. These cameras are going to perform awesomely. Okay? It's when you lose the light where these cameras start to suffer. Okay? Alright, so last but certainly not least, let's do a zoom test to close out the video. So you can see we got that really big tree all the way out there in the distance there. We're going to use that as our primary focal point. So let me tap to get the focus. Let me lock the focus and lock the exposure. And now let's zoom in. Now, similar to when you're recording in 1080p 60, you can only use the primary cameras when you're recording in 4K at 30 FPS. Now, you do have two different ratios for recording in 4K at 30 FPS. You got the 19.5 by 9 and you got the regular 16 by 9. I'm doing today's video, the entire video, in 16 by 9. Okay, that's what I like to record in. That's the ratio I always record in, either 16 by 9 or 4 by 3. But if I'm given the choice, I'm going to use 16 by 9. But let's zoom in now and see how much detail can be retained when we zoom in with the primary 64 megapixel camera. Let's go. So this is at 1 time zoom. Let's go up to 1.5. 1.5 times zoom. That actually looks pretty good still. Let's go up to 2.5. 2.5 times zoom. We're losing a little bit of detail on the leaves, but the colors still look fairly accurate. Let's go up to 3.5. Oop, too far. There we go. 3.5 times zoom. Let's go up to 4.5. Oop, that was way too far. 4.5 times zoom. And you can see right about here, we're losing all the detail. We still are maintaining the colors quite nicely, but that detail is pretty much gone. And we can still go all the way up to 10 times zoom, as you can see right here. But this is basically unusable, y'all. Don't use the 10 times zoom on here. Realistically speaking, you want to keep it at 1 times or 2.5 times, right? If you're going to zoom, that's where you would want to keep it, because this maintains the detail, the color, and the stabilization, no matter which one you use. Now, if you want to physically, or you need to physically get closer to your subject, you need to do that. Physically move closer to your subject. Because after a certain point, all we're doing when we digitally zoom is just that with our cameras. We're digitally zooming the image, which is digitally cropping the image, which is degrading the image the more we zoom in, because it's a digital crop. All right? But that pretty much does it for the camera testing for the rear primary cameras on the Moto Edge 2020. Now, I just want to come back with one more clip, gathering all my thoughts, making an overall recommendation, and once again, testing out these cameras in a vlog style, selfie style capacity. So let me spin the cameras around. Let me take a few minutes. Let me gather my thoughts, and I'll come back and close out the video for y'all. Give me a little bit. Okay, everyone. So let's close out this camera review / camera test video. Let me give y'all my thoughts. So I've been using the Moto Edge 2020 for roughly about a week to a week and a half, really testing these cameras, really putting this device through its paces. How do I feel about the cameras? And can I recommend this device strictly based off of the cameras here in 2024? Well, I'm going to have to say overall, these are some really good cameras, only when you have the right amount of light. When you lose the right amount of light, these cameras do tend to severely suffer. Okay? But if you have really good to great lighting, these cameras are going to do a great job. That being said, on the whole, when we talk about photos and video performance on this device, I'd have to say it is really good. As long as you're willing to take the time to really line up and dial in your shot, and again, make sure you have the right amount of light, these are some really good cameras. Now, as far as point and shoot status goes with these cameras, these ain't it. These are not it. And coming from devices like the Google Pixel 6a and the iPhone 11, which are basically point and shoot status all day, every day. Whether you're taking photos or videos, you can pretty much whip either of those devices out and rest assured that you're going to get a great photo or take some really good video no matter what you're trying to do. Point and shoot status confirmed on both of those, coming from the Pixel 6a and the iPhone 11 to the Moto Edge 2020. It's a noticeable adjustment. The biggest thing that I had to adjust for is the fact that I don't get full access to the cameras when I record in 4K. What? On the iPhone 11 and the Pixel 6a, even when I'm recording in 4K, I got access to the primary cameras and I got access to the ultra-wide cameras. But the minute I stop shooting in 1080p 30 or 720p, then I only have access to the primary 64 megapixel camera on the Moto Edge 2020. And as y'all can see from the footage, it is a really cropped in image. Like, I don't even know if I'm lining this last video clip up properly. I'll be able to tell in post, but these are my raw thoughts. So even if I mess up the alignment, I'm just going to keep this in the video anyway, okay? Because these are all unscripted videos, okay? These are all raw. These are all uncut. You're getting my emotions and opinions exactly as I feel them and experience them. That's one of the things that I love about doing these type of camera reviews, because anything that happens when I push record that's what happened. But putting all of that aside, like I said, if you're willing to take the time with this device and dial it in right, then you can get some really great photos from this device and you can take some really good video from this device. But you want to make sure you have adequate to great lighting, right? But if you're looking for a device that you just want to be able to pull it out, point and shoot, so like whether you pulling out point and shooting photos, pulling out point and shooting videos, if you're looking for that style of device, you definitely want to look elsewhere, okay? But if you want a really good device and you're okay with taking a little bit of time to get the shot or the video that you want, you really can't go wrong with this device, especially at this price, okay? So can I recommend this device? I would have to say yes, but only with the caveat that you're okay spending the time that you need to spend to get the shot that you want. If you want point and click status, this ain't it, okay? But that pretty much does it for today's camera review or camera walkthrough. Y'all know I use those terms interchangeably for the Moto Edge 2020. Now, in terms of the full review, I got a little bit more battery testing to do before I come out with the full review. But in terms of how I feel about this device overall, putting the cameras and the whole device into consideration, or taking the cameras and the whole device into consideration, this is a really good device. All right. I am pleasantly surprised with a display that's locked permanently at 90 hertz that I'm still able to get phenomenal battery life on this device. I really like the display. This is a really good display. I am not a fan of the curves, but in general, this is a really good display. But it does have some issues. I'm going to point out the issues with the display in the full review. But other than that, this is overall a really good device. And especially for the price that you're able to pick it up for, you really can't go wrong with this, especially with the features. I was about to say features. The features that this device still packs with micro SD card expansion and a 3.5mm headphone jack. You really can't go wrong if you're deciding to pick up this device here today in 2024, especially for the price. All right, that being said, that does it for today's video. I hope everyone is having a great day. I hope you guys and gals are staying safe out there, and I hope you guys and gals enjoyed the content. All right, have a good one. I'll catch you guys and gals on the next one. We are out of here, everybody. Peace.